Today, we're jumping into one of the most personal, emotional, and honestly dramatic letters ever written, the ancient letter we know as Second Corinthians. And this is not some dry, dusty document. No, this is a raw, unfiltered look at a relationship that has been pushed right to the edge. See, at its heart, this is a story about a founder, the Apostle Paul, and the community he poured his life into building in the city of Corinth. But now, that same community has turned on him. Their friendship and his entire mission there is just hanging by a thread. So to really get this letter, we have to start with the central problem. Paul, who was like a spiritual father to these people, is now being treated like an enemy in his own house. What happened was, Paul had recently made a trip back to Corinth, and it was a total disaster. I mean, instead of a warm welcome, he gets hit with open hostility. One guy in particular just aggressively challenges his authority right in front of everybody, and the rest of the church, they just stood by and let it happen. It was humiliating, and you can tell deeply, deeply painful for him. So what was behind this rebellion? Well, Paul gives them a nickname, and you can just taste the sarcasm: the super apostles. These were these slick, charismatic leaders who had rolled into town and were basically selling a flashier, more successful version of the gospel. And to sell their brand, they had to tear Paul's down. They made fun of how he looked, and they pointed to all the suffering in his life as proof that he was a spiritual failure. Now, this whole mess didn't just pop up overnight. Oh no. It was the climax of a long, pretty complicated history of visits, letters, and a whole lot of misunderstandings. Okay, so the sequence of events is a bit messy, but it goes something like this. Paul founds the church, then he leaves. He sends them a letter, but they totally misunderstand it. So he writes another one, the one we call 1 Corinthians, to sort out all their internal drama. But things are still a mess, so he makes that painful visit we talked about. After that disaster, he's heartbroken, and he writes this harsh, tear-filled letter. Scholars call it the severe letter. For weeks, he has no idea how they took it. It's pure anxiety. But finally, he gets the news. The church was devastated by the letter. They repented. They even disciplined the guy who attacked him. And that is why we have 2 Corinthians. It's this letter of immense relief, trying to reconcile, but also a powerful defense of everything he stands for. So, in the middle of this crisis, how does Paul try to win them back? You might expect him to fight fire with fire, but he doesn't. Instead, he mounts this completely upside-down defense that just flips all the values of his rivals on their head. And this lays it out perfectly. You've got the super apostles on one side. They're all about image, power, and making sure they get paid. Paul's approach? The exact opposite. He's humble, he works for free, and this is the shocking part. He boasts not about his strengths, but about his weakness and all his suffering. I mean, what kind of leader does that? It was absolutely revolutionary. And here's the genius move. Paul takes the very things his opponents are mocking him for, the shipwrecks, the beatings, the hardships, and he reframes them as his credentials. He basically says, "You think my suffering disqualifies me? No, that's my resume. That's what proves my message is authentic and that I'm all in for you." He uses this incredible metaphor to explain what he means. He says he's like a cheap, breakable jar of clay. He's admitting, yeah, on the outside, I'm weak, I'm vulnerable, but he says that's the whole point. The weakness of the jar makes it crystal clear that the priceless treasure inside, the power of the gospel, is from God, not from some impressive, strong human. He even uses another image, saying that his public suffering is like this parade, where the aroma of his sacrifice actually spreads the knowledge of Christ everywhere he goes. He's constantly reframing what looks like a humiliating defeat into a victory for a much bigger purpose. But remember, Paul doesn't just want to win an argument here. He wants to fix the relationship. So he gives the Corinthians two very clear, very tangible ways to prove that their change of heart is real. Okay, test number 1. He tells them to forgive and welcome back the man who had attacked him. This was about healing their whole community, not just Paul's hurt feelings. And test number 2, he asks them to finally make good on a promise they'd made a while back, to give generously to a collection for the poor believers in Jerusalem. It was their chance to show their inward change through an outward action. And you have to understand, this collection was about so much more than just money. For Paul, it was the ultimate proof. Their generosity would be a tangible sign that they really got God's grace.
It was also this amazing symbol of unity, connecting this non-Jewish church to the original Jewish believers in Jerusalem. And the key thing was it had to be given freely, from a grateful heart, not because anyone was forcing them to do it.
So when you step back and look at this entire messy, emotional story, one single, really profound idea starts to shine through. It's the core message of the whole letter, and it's completely counterintuitive. Here it is. The great paradox Paul lands on is that true, divine strength isn't shown in human success or power or flashiness. No, it's revealed and made perfect in our moments of weakness, our vulnerability, our dependence. His entire life was basically Exhibit A for this truth. And let's be real, that is a radical idea. Not just back then, but especially now. It flies in the face of a culture, our culture, that worships comfort, celebrates easy success, and demands we all have a flawless public image. Paul's message kind of whispers that the very places where we feel most fragile might just be the places where real strength is waiting to be found. And so, this ancient letter leaves us with a pretty challenging question for our own lives. In a world that's obsessed with success, what kind of power might be hiding in our failures?